So yes, thanks for the introduction. My name is Jessica, and I'm literally the tea lady. I started out of a caravan selling takeaway tea, and 6 years later, I have a store that we're about to franchise all over the country. I have a brand that's launched nationwide on retail shelves. We export to Japan, Malaysia, and Amsterdam, and we have our own factory where we blend and create all of our own teas. I have a drama and philosophy background. I studied to be on stage, essentially, and somewhere along the line, I decided I wanted to be in film. And so I went and did a postgraduate in film production and found myself in the commercials world. Basically, I had sold my soul, and every day would be some kind of a battle to get up and actually face my day. 16-hour days, 7 days a week, for about 8 months of the year, and I had no time to do anything that actually brought me any kind of joy. And for the 4 months that I wasn't working, I was either too petrified to spend my money because I didn't know when the next job was coming, or I was too exhausted to actually do anything. With the sort of awareness that things are impermanent and we don't know how long the conditions will last for us to experience this life, I realized that if I was going to put the majority of my time into doing something that made me completely miserable, there was absolutely no point. Of course, we exist in this world where we have to make money. Someone came up with this idea of a job thing. I don't know who did and why they did, but here we are, and we have to do a job, and we have to make money. So if I'm going to invest my time and I'm a hard worker, then I'm going to do that for something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And as a woman, I feel that we always need some way to express ourselves creatively. There's a yearning that happens inside, and if you don't tick that box, there's something that is imbalanced, and I was feeling completely dead inside. Never mind that I was compromising my morals on a daily basis. So I sort of decided one day, okay, well, that is it. I need a vessel to express myself. I need a way to express my views of the world, and I see so many things that are wrong that I actually also want an opportunity to change the things and to be the change. And the obvious sort of solution for me was to create my own business. But of course, then you have to go, okay, well, here I'm standing at this amazing food forest, and there's all sorts of fruit. Which one do I pick? The logical answer would be to look at what kind of skill do you have, and to sort of go, okay, well, I didn't have any tech background. I had no sort of invention that was going to be this next amazing widget. So I really had to go down to the deepest aspects of myself and go, okay, well, what kind of skills do I have? And after a whole process of realizing, well, I can't start a theater company, and that's not what I want to do, and I, can't start a film company, and that's not what I want to do, I sort of, okay, well, I'd spent since the age of 14 waitressing until about 24, so that kind of seemed like a logical step. That seemed like a skill I could use. Okay, fine, I'm going to start a cafe. That'll be easy, that'll be simple. And then I created this whole cafe concept, and in order for me to sort of set it apart from anything else, I started to look at what I could do to actually make it different. And the only way I could resonate with that was to go, okay, well, what about this concept, or what about that kind of experience is not out there that I want to experience? And for me, it was about having somewhere where I could connect with people from all different walks of life, and no matter what your background was. And I'd spent some time traveling through India, and in India, it doesn't matter what corner of the street you go to or who you meet, but tea is this bridging gap through which you can now connect with people. So in my head, I thought, okay, well, tea can be that element that will create this entire environment that I want. So I put together this amazing business plan, and I had a budget, and when I sat down with it, I was looking at 750,000 Rand. I was 26, and I had absolutely no experience whatsoever, and I thought, well, how on earth am I actually going to do this? I don't know what I'm doing, and where do I think I'm going to get the money, and do I actually want to be in debt with this kind of a money? Not a chance. So I took it to its bare minimum, and that was the one thing that resonated with me, tea. So I thought, okay, how can I now do tea differently? Again, how do I want to experience tea that's not out there? And of course, we live in an amazing coffee culture, and you can pop out the office, or on your way to the office you can get coffee, but there's no option for people with tea. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to be the Vita of tea, or I'm going to be the Starbucks of tea, and I'm going to sell takeaway tea. That's what I'm going to do. Again, I had to look at, well, okay, now I'm creating something from nothing, and I have nothing with which to create something, so what can I do? I think I'd just gotten my tax returns, being a freelance in the film industry. That was your nice little bit of cash injection every few months. And I thought, okay, well, I have 50,000 Rand. What can I do with 50,000 Rand? very little, especially when I don't know what I'm going to do. So after sort of exhausting every avenue, I had jokingly said to myself one day, well, screw this, I'm going to buy a caravan and I'm just going to travel around Cape Town and I'm going to pop out on every corner and I'm going to sell tea. And I kind of sat with it and I thought, okay, wait, actually that might work. That could be a viable option. There's no overheads, I don't have to employ anyone. I can tow the thing myself, I can make it look really pretty, it can be this mobile tea room. Of course, I started telling my friends this was my idea, and everybody looked at me very strangely, thinking, tea from a caravan? No ways. Little did I know at the time that I would start the entire food truck movement in South Africa, that I would be the first tea caravan or tea truck in the whole world. So I bought the caravan and I decided, okay, this was the day that I was going to launch and I was going to start selling tea. Of course, the city council had other ideas. I wasn't allowed to pop up on every corner, and informal trade regulations allowed me to basically serve nowhere. So I had this looming date in 2 months, and coming from the film industry, I thought, okay, well, I know that no is negotiable, so I'm just going to pursue this avenue, and I'm going to change the government laws, and I'm going to go into all of the city councils and fix it all. And of course, that just didn't happen. They said to me, yeah, you can expect a change maybe in 5 years. So I then had to look for the next solution, because here I had everybody expecting this thing from me, and I had committed to it in financially and obviously in my heart. So I started approaching various markets. Of course, the biscuit mill was the first one, and they looked and laughed at me, whereas now they have like millions of food trucks. But anyway, we won't go there. And then I found this awesome little hipster market outside the Labia Theatre. Of course, the hipsters save everything because they're all about innovation and something that's different and new. So I popped up here at this market on a Friday night, expecting to sell all this tea I'd been spending until 4 o'clock in the morning packing every single night for the last week. And I think I made about 350 Rand. And that continued for the next few weeks. So I was still freelancing in the film industry, and of course 350 Rand 4 times a week does not allow you to make anything to actually pay yourself or for me to step outside. So I realized I had to actually find other avenues of bringing in income, and very quickly. So I had to adapt, and I sort of looked, okay, well, what is the next logical step? Well, I've got this product, I've got this brand, people are starting to respond to the magic of the caravan. I'm able to actually directly link to my market and simultaneously guide them while I'm learning. And so, well, I'm just going to see if I can actually sell the tea. So I started approaching literally door-to-door salesmen. I was approaching a lot of restaurants, cafes, small little retail outlets, seeing if anybody could actually buy it from me. And some people loved the sort of handcrafted, unique feel of my brand, but it still wasn't bringing in enough money for me to be able to step away. So I had to think bigger. I went away for a weekend with a friend to a game reserve, and we were sitting on the deck sort of looking out in this beautiful African bush, and I was sipping a cup of dust, Liftons, whatever, and thought to myself, well, this is such a beautiful experience. Why am I not drinking a magnificent tea? People should be drinking my tea, having this experience. Pitched it to them, they loved it, they bought 300 kilograms of tea from me, and now all of a sudden I had my cash flow, I had my startup capital. This was all within the first year. So now I could go and actually do something with this company. And I went to go look for a factory space, because like every other entrepreneur, I was working out of my garage and a caravan. And I found the Woodstock Exchange while it was still in its very early days, before it had actually even been built. And they said to me, well, our whole concept is we want factory meets retail. Don't you want to open a tea room? To me, the tea room had been a 2015 plan, and I was like, okay, well, if it's here, I'm totally going to jump on board with that. And then I opened my tea room, and now I had a place through which I could actually directly on a daily basis interact with my market and my clients and learn them. I think as an entrepreneur, you're constantly innovating, so you tend to see things way before other people tend to see things. I mean, I've been doing this 6 years now, and I think it was only a year ago that people started going, oh, tea, yes, we get it now. And I'm like, what I've been telling you guys for like 6 years, seriously? So it becomes quite difficult, because you're leading the market while you're simultaneously actually trying to respond to what it is that they are responding to, or what it is that they want. And I mean, sitting here in year 6, I can tell you that the first 365 days don't end then, they repeat every single year as you go on, and it's not like, the first year is cuck. It's really horrible, and it just gets worse. You just become way better adapted to actually dealing with it. So I think the first year really taught me about, I'd say, 5 key concepts. The first is foundations. So you're a builder, and you're standing in Builder's Warehouse, and you've got every kind of tool and building material that you can want, but you've never built anything in your life. So you think, okay, well, I'm going to grab this brick and I'm going to grab that epoxy, and then you go and you're like, okay, wait, brick and epoxy don't go together. So, okay, let me try cement. You grab the cement and the brick and you put it together, but you've now put it on mud. So there goes your foundations. Okay, let me try something else. So you go and you get the brick and the cement, and you go now try on the side of a mountain. But now you're open to the elements and the winds come and knock your house down. So the first year is literally about rebuilding your foundations over and over and over. We live in a world that has this whole thing of instant gratification, and of course that would be the coffee culture, whereas we're just going to have this thing and it's going to get us from A to Z instantly, and we forget about everything else that's in between. And it's the in-between where all the magic happens. That's where you can fine-tune the process, and that's where you can master something. Because essentially anything that lasts takes time to build. And I'm still in year 6 learning that. I'm still having to revisit my foundations and rebuild them again and again. And then adaptation is a super important one, because if you're not open to adapting to what comes your way, then you're never going to learn and you're never going to move. In the beginning I had this idea that, okay, I was going to trade 5 days a week with a caravan around Cape Town, and the city council came and said I couldn't do it, and if I didn't adapt, then I wouldn't have gotten to the place where Air France noticed me, ETV noticed me, people started responding to this, then I could open the shop, and it just became a case of following breadcrumbs. And if you're not present in the moment and you're not open to adapting to what the conditions are going to bring to you, then you miss out on so many opportunities. And there are so many opportunities, there's infinite possibilities, and you have to be responsive enough to be able to listen to what those things are. Circumstantially, there's no foundation, there's no fundamental model for an entrepreneur or starting a business, because each person is unique and each circumstances are unique and each business is unique. So it's about how you're adapting to your environment, because essentially that's going to mirror, that's going to speak back to you what your process is. I think the other thing that I experienced the most in my first year would be fear, an insane amount of fear, and that fear is still there. I'm just, again, better equipped to deal with it. I would have moments where I would wake up fairly early into it and I would be like, what? I bought a caravan and I'm selling tea. What the hell was I thinking? This is a terrible idea. And sort of having to get myself up and realize that I'm actually experiencing a passion for this thing. There is this thing that's connecting, because it's becoming the vessel through which I can express myself. It's becoming the vessel through which I can experience the world, through which I can evolve. And I wanted to fight for that tooth and nail. So that passion allowed me to be able to move through the fear, but the fear is present in everything, and it's fear essentially of failure, because we know that everybody is now expecting something from you. You're expecting something from you, and what happens if you fail? And of course, failure is the biggest teacher, because failure is the only way that you learn what to do and what not to do. And I used to take failure as a personal thing. I used to think I've not done something correctly. And for sure, there are times if you're observing yourself, maybe I wasn't diligent enough there. Maybe I didn't actually listen to that process. But a lot of the time, you're failing in order to learn how to do it better. And every failure or roadblock is essentially just turning you in another direction. And if you follow that, again, the breadcrumbs, you're going to get to the go-to place. So yes, failure. The other thing that I think I've learned the most is self-worth. So your business, especially in the beginning, is not separate from you. So you're constantly having to look at yourself, and you see the raw, ugliest part of yourself and the things that come up because now you're responding to this thing that you're trying to create. It's like a child, essentially. So when I could see a tweak in my business, I would immediately be able to draw that back to myself and see that there was a tweak within me, and I would have to address that thing there, and then I would see it would actually change in the business. So it became another vessel through which I was actually evolving as a person. And again, 6 years later, I can tell you now that if you can stand by that self-worth and establish that regardless of anybody else's expectations or perceptions, it's so easy for us to compare ourselves to our peers. I had a lot of male peers who also started their businesses at the same time, and I was always looking, going, well, I'm not moving as quickly as they are, I'm not achieving what they are, my turnover isn't the same, I'm not in that many stores, I'm doing it wrong, I'm failing. This is their journey and their process entirely. My journey and my process is different, and I have to trust that I'm following that intuitive step, I'm following that heart step, and I'm doing everything that I can within myself at the best of my ability to achieve what I'm trying to achieve. So that self-worth is really important, and I actually revisited that last year when I did an incubator program with Impact Amplifier, which is sort of developing the business where your impacts align with your value systems. And I couldn't actually conceptualize the value of my own product because I was directly relating to that as a value of myself. It was, if people reject this product, they're rejecting me. And it sounds very simplistic, but really and truly there's so much in that aspect of you bearing your soul to the world and having them judge that based on how it is that they're purchasing it or not purchasing it. And that comes back to you, and you have to hold yourself so solidly all the time. And as a woman in business, you know, men seem to run things very linear. Women are a lot more fluid. We flow with the flux a lot more naturally. We're even in tune with the natural environment a little bit more. And then agri-processing and agriculture, you know, completely male-dominated. I used to come across men all the time and be like, oh, sit down, little girl, let's show you how it's done. And you have to be like, well, that's not my process, that's not my way, this is how I'm going to do things. I'm not a 9-to-5 person. Some days I'm going to have intense passion and I'm going to have intense energy, and other days I'm not going to do that. And more often than not, the highs are way lower, are way smaller than the lows. So you've got like 20 highs that have happened because you've had 20 amazing successes, and one low comes along and it completely knocks you off your feet, and it knocks every other thing that has brilliantly happened to you, and you then go and value yourself according to just this one failure. So many times I'll sit there and I'll be like, what have I actually achieved? I've done nothing in 6 years, you know, look, I'm not in every Starbucks around the world, I've like completely failed. And it's not like that. It's not that at all. So you have to completely come back to yourself over and over again, and you have to be the strongest point, because you can ask other people. Nobody knows your journey. Nobody knows what is going on. You're essentially alone, and there are people that can be there to support you, and you have to call on that support. I think that one of the biggest mistakes I made was not actually talking to people for the first few years. I told no one anything because I was so scared of looking like I didn't know what I was doing, because I actually didn't know what I was doing. In fact, sometimes I still don't actually know what I'm doing, and most of the time I'm like, I hope nobody figures out that I actually don't know what I'm doing. You know, it's amazing to have friends and family who can at least just tell you, just like, you know, sometimes you just want to phone mom and you just want mom to be like, it's going to be all right. Like, that for me sometimes would be enough. And not speaking about stuff actually gave me an insane amount of anxiety and stress, which of course was completely ironic since I was the tea lady and I was here to relieve anxiety and stress through the wonder of tea. And I was sitting rocking in a corner most days because I couldn't face the day. I was so petrified with all of the looming magnitude of things that I had to face. But yeah, coming back to yourself and understanding every single day is a new challenge, and every single day is going to bring you certain conditions that you're a captain of your ship, and all you know is this ship, and you don't know, you know, how the tides are going to change and what the weather's going to do, and you just have to know that you're capable of manning your own ship, and you can adapt according to the weather and according to the wind. And sometimes you need to fight against the current, and other times you need to just let go and move. And if you can be present enough to hear that, then that will really help your journey. So be warriors. Thank you.